on in. We'll just swipe that 3 times across. No big deal. Spawning at the top right of Oxide for generic Green Wings. Our blue Terran, it's Maru.
His opponent right here in the bottom left side, it's the Kaisi Gamer man himself. He is INnoVation. Okay, I mean, both these players, right, they are looking pretty darn impressive. They are looking like they are well in shape. And both of them, of course, in the top 8 of the GSL as well. So, you know, overall, it would be kind of interesting. It would be kind of interesting to see which one of these guys will be able to perform a little bit better. And then later on, be able to look at the games in the GSL as well. By the way, mentioning the GSL, both of them, well, neither of them, I should say, having any TvTs within that group either. So that's a nice little thing right there to know that neither of these players are going to feel restricted in a sense, considering this. And then, to be fair, they haven't had too much time since that previous match. At least INnoVation hasn't, right? Only recently figuring out that he will be moving on forwards.
Is that a spoiler there, Kozan? What?
No.
Oh, okay.
Everybody watches GSL Live.
Oh,
every single person.
Every last StarCraft fan, if they
Those
call
who
themselves
don't,
that.
They lack the passion.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm stacked on GSL channel points.
Oh, baby. Do they do channel points on YouTube?
No, I don't think they do.
Wow, I can't believe you'd lie to me like that, Kozan.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to be a part of the memes.
It's okay. I'm gonna find a way to forgive you. It's about the same time I forgive my ISP at this point. So hopefully it's quick on both accounts. But I will say that I want so badly to see Maru to get super weird in this series, because I think that might be his best chance, because I don't feel like it's a hot take to say that INnoVation's probably the favored player between these two. I don't feel like that's a bad thing to say, but I would love to see Maru get scrappy in this TvT and show us some really fun games. To your point, they don't have any TvTs that they need to prepare for, so if they've got crazy stuff, now's the time to really get really weird with it.
Yeah, and well, let's see how these guys are kind of opening up so far. Nothing too crazy. The double Reaper here for Maru. I believe we only have a single one for... Actually, no, we have the Marine right now. May get his command center a little bit delayed here. Oh, it's going to be close. I will... Oh, you're joking. How is this? Okay, well, fair enough.
I was going to say, that's actually a glitch in the system, it feels like, because that was 71 out of 71 seconds. How do you time that any tighter? You just can't.
Yep, you don't. And then he was waiting for it as well. Maybe just to give INnoVation a little bit of a confidence boost. Or, I mean, what's the opposite of a confidence boost? A confidence unboost? No, that doesn't sound right. Anyway, making it just a little bit of a little bit annoying there for INnoVation, right? Almost ready, and then, you know, those Reapers just waiting, biding their time, and then coming in there until the last seconds, just shutting it down. Confidence nerf.
I like it. Twitch chat has a few gems every so often. Not always. Once again. But they strike once again. I agree. So, looks like INnoVation's going to be the one that gets across the map here first, but Maru's going to go out and try and meet him in the center. They're going to somehow find each other, but yeah, I was going to say, Maru's got to drop what he's got in that medevac, otherwise he's going to be a little bit understaffed here. Trying to get on top of those Hellions, a pickoff on one of those Hellions would be really nice, but INnoVation just going to dive right on into the main base. These Hellions will be able to get on top of all of these SCVs. Some of them are going to get roasty toasty. It looks like it's going to be about 4 that get picked off. So all things considered, that wasn't too bad of a defense for Maru. It cost INnoVation way more than he got for it.
Yeah, overall for SCVs, it's not the greatest. You would expect more to happen there, right? Those 4 Hellions being able to one-shot SCVs and then only getting 4. It's a little bit weird. Maru very on the ball, though, not pulling those workers around somewhere and then stacking them up onto one another, you know, as we see some other players do in a little bit of a panic in those moments. Staying cool, keeping his head above waters in a sense, and you know what? Immediately retaliating here with 3 SCV kills of his own. Oh, and a nice siege up position as well. All right, Maru.
Yeah. I love this aggression. I think this is really good positioning here by Maru. A really great interference matrix will shut down that tank and at least give INnoVation the chance to set up his own tank and push off those bio forces. So this will not be able to stick around for very long. In fact, it does now get taken care of. Maru wanted to try and commit into that aggression a little bit, but decides, I'm just going to stay aggressive with my medevac here, dropping right on top of the tank. 1 extra tank delaying another barracks here. This is pretty good continued damage here by Maru.
Yeah, you just don't expect that, right? Being able to kill off your opponent's siege tank and then still having 2 Ravens and Marines sitting around in your own base. You don't expect that medevac to make a round number 2 that quickly. Just immediately come back in the main base and see whatever you can get done, and you know, finding some good value again. So Maru once again looking like he's on absolute fire at the moment. Being able to get himself slightly ahead. There's no real winning maneuvers just quite yet that have been made, but ultimately, overall things looking all right for Maru, I would say.
INnoVation starting to get better control of the air now. He's got those Vikings added in with those Ravens, so we'll be able to push off the medevac to at least lessen a little bit of that push. But look at this, Maru just picking off some of those valuable units, grabbing one of those Ravens as well. He's going to try and set up here on the right-hand side of the natural, and that is going to expose a little bit of the side there. I mean, I don't think that gas is quite in range. Is it? No, not quite. So he's going to unsiege and rotate around. But getting at least a little bit more of that pressure is still very valuable for Maru as he tries to hold back an INnoVation who is struggling to get a little bit of his footing here. 40 to 28 army supply. Maru's up in the overall supply count as well. Maru's got to feel good so far, but he's got to hold back this push that INnoVation is starting to move out with.
Yeah, I mean, for Maru, the most important thing for him, it looks like he just wants to deny mining on that 3rd base for as long as possible. Even coming in here with that Cyclone as well. Getting every little bit of damage that he can is Maru right now. But yeah, he's been happily mining off of that 3rd base for quite a while now, already having those refineries done at this moment as I'm speaking. So, you know what, overall, again, you know what, Maru taking these small steps, and overall it's starting to accumulate to an actual really significant lead here, as we're seeing, well, more than what is it, 15 supply into his favor at the moment.
Yeah, that's one siege tank positioning away from falling away, though. So he doesn't want to fall asleep at the wheel and needs to make sure that he stays focused, that he doesn't trade inefficiently against a player like INnoVation, who is super tactical on where he drops all of his units, where he's going to set up. I mean, doing a good job, both players scanning forward. And INnoVation now wants to try and leverage at least a little bit of this aggression. Marine's getting on top of one of those tanks, really softening it up. I don't know if he's going to try and dive in on top of it, but they're both going to siege up here. Tanks are going to siege on both sides, and now Bio gets shredded for INnoVation. Maru's just going to stay on top of this. I don't know that INnoVation has a whole lot left to say in this particular game. I mean, they're even on the worker count, sure, but Maru's going to just push across the map with 20 extra army supply.
Yeah, that was a very sweet trade there for Maru. I can't believe that he managed to get that going in his favor so avidly. For a moment, I thought he was in trouble, seeing those siege tanks in siege, and then on the back foot, the medevacs couldn't get close to pick up the siege tanks. But anyway, here he goes in again. 4 siege tanks ready to shoot down a ton of SCVs. 14 of them do fall. It looks like Maru may just barely have enough here to break INnoVation. Oh, but more Marines do come in. 23 SCVs pay the price, though. Will be a mass grave right there. That's is for those SCVs alone.
Yeah, it was a good hold by INnoVation, but again, coming at the cost of all of those workers just to scrape by is not what he wants to accomplish at this point in the game. So now Maru's just going to continue jumping ahead here. He's got 76 workers to the 53 of his opponent. He's going to start harassing the natural as well and make this lead that much stronger.
Yeah, I think he got like 1 SCV there for the 2 Marines. That's fine, kind of putting INnoVation back on the back footing again as well, right? Keeping INnoVation away from a 4th base also, as Maru, you know what, looking at the production tab right now, making a planetary right there. And yeah, he's looking incredibly efficient right now, not just with his engagements, not just with his how he's scanning, where he's scanning. Everything just seems on point here for Maru. A little bit behind on his upgrades. That's the one thing INnoVation has going for him, but that is just basically an upgrade advantage of, what is it, 20 seconds, maybe 15? It's not that much. It's a small window.
It's definitely going to be that worker count, though, that is a much bigger upgrade, if we want to call it, between these 2 players. INnoVation has got to find some damage here. He's tried to close the army gap. He's within 10. But now Maru's going to drop more Marines into the main base, harassing that mineral line once more. And now this becomes a situation where INnoVation almost has to kind of go all in here. He's lost 10 more SCVs. He's going to try and siege up here outside of what is the 3rd base location for Maru, but these drops are just relentless. I think he's going to try and get upwards into 20 kills on that base alone. And Maru just continues to double down here. 186 to 133. He is not finding the keys to this success, and INnoVation is absolutely going to have to shove forward and try and make the most out of this, but I don't know what he can get accomplished.
I mean, just being able to do something, right? Even cleaning up these supply depots. He has to start somewhere to gain his efficiency, and losing more SCVs back at home, losing those siege tanks as well back at home is absolutely devastating for him right now. He cannot afford to lose anything else, but you know what? This is the game of StarCraft 2, the TvT. Things can get very, very dicey very quickly, and it looks like a doom drop is attempted, but Maru, quick on the trigger, will bring across his own army as well, and I think this is the GG. There we go. GG! INnoVation losing to Maru in game number 1, and that means we're going to go into game number 2 here with Maru looking absolutely stellar. Somebody in the chat made a good point, though, that, of course, INnoVation, he's had a long day, right? He's had a long day. He's had to play GSL as well today. Maru didn't. Maru's still pretty fresh right now, and who knows how that is influencing INnoVation as well. I'm fairly certain INnoVation isn't that that doesn't feel too threatened by having to do, you know what, 2 tournaments in a day. I know he's you know, he probably has some resilience overall, worked up over the years, right? Yeah, that's what I'm assuming him.
I actually have to lean back and think of all of the in a time before the pandemic when we had in-person events. Think about how long some of those days were for players, not specifically the Koreans, but even just like circuit players, where, I mean, you're sitting in a cold convention center hall for what, 10, 11, 12 hours, and you may play at the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, we'll see you 9 hours from now. Have a good time. And so, well, what do I do? Do I practice? Do I sleep? Do I try and fight the jet lag if I've flown a long ways to get there? So it would not surprise me to see all of these pro players have a pretty decent endurance to withstand some of these events. But playing into GSL and then immediately turning around, what is it? It's like 2 or 3 in the morning right now to play another event. I think that might be the more difficult factor, just the fact that it's so late.
Yeah, true. I mean, it is 3 a.m. right now in Korea. That is also a good point. And that definitely could influence these players also. To be fair, I'm not quite sure what their usual rhythms, what their usual patterns are, but normally we do try to, you know, every Korean matches on the Alpha X channel kind of end before it is midnight, around that time, you know, at least. It's yeah, there was no alternative, unfortunately, here at the moment. And these are the times that we are restricted to at this point in time in a tournament. But anyway, we're continuing onwards in the top right side of Pillars of Gold. There is the blue Terran from Jin Green Wings fighting for... Is that a different team anime? I'm not quite certain. It is Maru.
And
did Team Envy change it?
I think they might have. Spawning in the bottom left. The Pillars of Gold are Red Terran. Kaisi Gaming is its INnoVation.
All right.
Man, INnoVation just like look at him just like stare the camera down. I think, all right, Chad, I have a task for you. I need you to watch INnoVation's player camera right here. It's a live camera. Like I know Borsty's typing stuff, but like no, this is a live camera. I need you to watch for the first time that he blinks and just let us know. Let us know in the chat. That is your one goal. You don't get to watch the game. You get to watch INnoVation.
INnoVation doesn't play with a mouse and keyboard. He unscrews the top of his fingertips, and then there's USB ports, which he plugs into the PC, and then all 10 fingers are just inside the PC. When then he just that's how he plays. That's how he plays, controlling everything that way, and that's why he's so stellar with that macro and everything else. Anyway.
Huh.
What do you expect after that one? Do you think INnoVation has a good chance to make a comeback here? Because I don't know, man. I'm getting a little bit worried here. Maru is looking like he is in some of the best shape that we've ever seen him in.
Well, I mean, I never want to count INnoVation out in a TvT because he is a very, very confident player in that matchup. So to say that he is still not favored in this series, I think would be incorrect of me. But I to Maru's credit, I wanted him to get aggressive. I wanted him to get a little weird, and I think that is what he has done so far. If he can keep doing that, I think he is going to take advantage of the fact. I mean, there is some of that that latent soft characteristics of a matchup, right? Where, oh, okay, it's late for one player, or oh, they've had a big day. Maybe they had something else go on outside of StarCraft. Well, what I can't imagine, because StarCraft is life, it's love as well. But I think Maru's probably trying to play into that a little bit as well. It's late. He's very good with some weird, cheeky, aggressive play. Well, let's make INnoVation play up to our play style and see if he can keep up. And right now, INnoVation is down 0-1, and Maru's more than likely going to keep that pedal to the metal and keep moving forward.
Yeah. And again, right, it does seem like Maru indeed is going to be the more aggressive player here. It is delaying that command center because of it, but let's see if we will be able to get some damage done this time around. The command center does finish up, but the Hellion's still a little bit removed here. Only a single Reaper and Marine available for INnoVation. And it looks like, oh, he does manage to pick off the first kill on that Reaper there. So nicely done, ultimately there by INnoVation. Great bit of micro, taking the victory right there. But ultimately, careful. That Reaper was so low.
Yeah, I can't believe that Reaper survived all of that engagement. So, like, props to Maru. Very good micro. Micro Jackson, I think, is the isn't that like Winter's one of Winter's accounts?
Is it? I don't know. What is it? Sorry.
We'll talk more about it later. Chad will probably fill us in. So. Right now, it seems to be rather close to the same build order here. We do have a medevac coming out from Maru, so going to continue keeping that aggression going, getting that Cyclone along with his Marine count. But both players staying really tight on the worker counts as well. So I'm not surprised by this to see Maru continuing to get aggressive. INnoVation has to find a way to get more of that damage done, though, because he's the one I think that's going to fall behind more. Or he can just, like, roast off all of these workers with literally one Hellion. So he does manage to pick off one SCV and a Mule. That's not insignificant.
Nathaniel is going all in with this meme as well right now. Oh, that's so funny. I'm sorry. I got distracted there. Anyway, INnoVation looking a lot sharper this time around. You know what? Did manage to secure a little bit of an economic lead there. Just a small one, of course, but ultimately that can help out as well. But Maru already here, awaiting this and trying to tie it up, or you know what? Just put himself further ahead actually. And then I look at it. 5 SCVs do fall, and Maru just backs on out of there, doesn't lose too much. And yeah, well done once again here by Maru, slowly but surely taking the lead and taking charge in this one as well. Cyclone lock on a little bit earlier for Maru, but the other one actually for INnoVation looking onto something entirely else. I think it may have been a Marine or a Hellion or something.
I like that. That was simultaneous on my end. So we were both using our brains to figure out how both of these players are going to maneuver. I feel like INnoVation's got an okay position to try and siege up here, but this is going to be yet another position where Maru's going to try and siege from the low ground. And now INnoVation has to rotate up into his main base. It's going to come at the cost of the vulnerability of his ramp. But the tank's not going to overstay its welcome this time. Maru's just going to back off, and INnoVation should be able to just move out on this because he's the one with the army advantage this time. It's 40 to 30. The worker counts are very similar, and his stim timing is actually a little bit quicker. That could be into INnoVation's favor. Maru might have a 10-15 second window where he does not have stim and his opponent does, and already losing little bits here and there is not going to help.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, right? We do have a big defender's advantage here for Maru, but we saw how much this early aggression, how much a good position on your opponent helps in TvT. If you do get to be the aggressive player here, you can get away with that third base a lot quicker. You can start mining there slowly but surely, get yourself ahead, and as well as you could just try to siege up on a position like this near the main base. And okay, yeah, does get the interference matrix right there, shuts it down very quickly. INnoVation, let's see how much he can get done right now by just poking and prodding the front door of Maru. He's actually committing right now up on top of the ramp. It may have been a bit of an overstep right now. The Ravens of INnoVation not quite using their energy whatsoever, and one very quickly does get picked off. All of the siege tanks go down, and that feels like a bit of an oversight of INnoVation.
Yeah, I feel like Maru was holding back those Vikings as long as possible so that INnoVation would feel comfortable jumping on in, and the Viking count able to shut all of that down, getting on top of those tanks as a result. And now Maru's in a position where he was able to even out that army count. Oh, he's a little prematurely getting those SCVs out there. That tank is going to get tank's going to get way more kills than it absolutely should have. 10 workers just all of a sudden go down. Maru, hello.
Okay. I mean, Maru just wanting to clean this up as quickly as possible, I suppose. He still has an army supply lead now because of this, but it doesn't appear like he will be trying to get aggressive for the time being. Maybe still attempting to receive the attacks of INnoVation for now, but I mean, yeah, TvT, it is one of these matchups where comebacks are always, well, almost always a possibility still. But yeah, INnoVation making some great maneuvers overall.
That's pretty good to say.
Yeah, getting combat shield there as well. Of course, the Marines for INnoVation now having a nice opportunity as well. Again, right, having that upgrade advantage here. And yeah.
That's honestly a big snipe, I think, is getting the advantage on those tanks to be able to be so much more aggressive towards Maru's Marines, because now it's going to take him a while to get that tech lab back up. And actually, I don't even see a tech lab in production. He's building more reactors. Does Maru know that got sniped? Okay, he does. It's now getting started once again, so that combat shield will be a little bit behind. That's going to give INnoVation a lot more opportunity to get set up on his fourth base and start moving towards a later portion of the game. We might actually get like a full-blown TvT here, Kozan.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get past the point of the Marine siege tank as well and really go heavily into the air armies. So far, the air dominance, it's hard to say. I think there's still a couple more Ravens available. No, actually, both of them just having the single one. Does look like INnoVation has that lead, though. Yeah, this is one of those weird situations where neither of these players are really comfortable with pushing into the other's army, right? Because TvT, as we said, it is a very, very comeback-heavy matchup. If you overstep for just a second, your army can very easily just be shut down because, well, Terran armies, they are the glass cannon, and a glass cannon versus a glass cannon, that is quite explosive. That can be lopsiding very quickly.
so much glass everywhere. I mean, I hope they both wore shoes. Very bad if they step in it.
Yep.
So, right now, Maru looks like he's going to try and take the right-hand fourth base. But INnoVation's already trying to siege up here. He's got a worker lead. He's got that army advantage. Right now, going to be playing with a little bit of that ramp advantage, but good interference and matrices going down. Tanks on the high ground now going to get added into the mix, and Maru still has a really strong air presence. I feel like the Viking count does go into his favor, and now it's going to be a big stem forward here for INnoVation. Getting a shutdown on that command center building is really nice. That's going to delay some of that economic advantage of Maru. And INnoVation continuing to exploit the fact that he has just a little bit more army, a little bit better positioning, but it's not going to slow down that fourth base production over on the right-hand side. That's very, very good thinking by Maru.
Yeah, I'm loving this by Maru as well, trying to eke out the air battle right now, and that is exactly what he needs to do to try and get rid of this containment here. He has those 2 extra liberators as well. Right now, I do believe they are still... There they are. Okay. And this is what's kind of going to save him here, perhaps, right? Being able to shut down these siege tanks and force them backwards. Actually, not getting even a single kill on those siege tanks right there. INnoVation really on top of his micro overall. Let's see if he still decides to stick around in this facility, or if he will try to move further backwards. Okay, no one just sieges up a little bit further backwards, and Maru, I don't know, man. It feels like he's in a little bit of trouble if he doesn't manage to maintain that air dominance in particular.
Yeah, but the tank spread's getting really, really good here for INnoVation, and that army count continues to separate, 114 to 95. The Vikings are about the only thing holding INnoVation back right now. Maru is getting that Liberator count up a little bit as well. I think he's just he might just leave it at 2 just to keep those tanks moving, that they can't siege in a position. But now INnoVation's going to swing around the top-hand side, realizes, hey, there's no fourth base here, so now I need to start aggressing on the right-hand side of the map. So I think he was hoping to be able to get on top of that fourth base, and there's no way that Maru hasn't gotten a fourth base by this point in the game, not with the production that he's seeing. So INnoVation is also getting that advanced ballistics as well, so his Liberators will be able to siege just a little bit further out. Maru getting more and more Marine.
Oh god, he's not seeing this. This doom drop could end it all right here. Right on top of the engineering base. No, okay, he does go straight forwards into the production facilities right now. Maybe buying a bit more time. Okay, the Vikings come in as well. Anti-armor is pretty large, but ultimately we still have this position where Maru needs to move into. And that is never a nice trade that you want to be making, but you know what? He's making the best of it so far. The Vikings will be able to land and clean up the rest of this, and ultimately, what he actually lost wasn't all too much. A very, very quick reaction there for Maru, managing to safeguard his main base there from utter destruction. And they still trade out fairly equally, though, in that engagement, right? So it's not like INnoVation threw away a massive chunk of his army and now he's behind. He still has enough back at home as well to still maintain the regular pace of this game.
I mean, he threw away a good chunk of his army. I wouldn't call him behind, but he definitely didn't get ahead in that engagement. A very, very good anti-armor missile locking that in for the defense. But INnoVation is still fundamentally in the lead here, 111 to 96 on that army supply, and both of their base counts are relatively similar.
Yeah, I mean, that engagement right there, I mean, he did get anti-armored missile, but it's not like he didn't kill anything off of Maru either, right? Maru did have to move into that location and did lose a good chunk of army also. So, I mean, overall, it's a bit of a tactic that you can try sometimes. It can backfire very heavily. It can work out marvelously, but that's one of the rare moments where it felt like it kind of equaled out in a sense, that neither of those players got massively ahead in the engagement there. Anyway, it looks like we're starting up another potential engagement here. Maru is in position with those units, though. Immediately getting pressured as well on this fifth base right there. Liberators going everywhere, and that is a very lovely maneuver to make, and that will force a lot of these Vikings to go elsewhere, perhaps.
Well, I think it might possibly open up the main army the chance to try and get into a position that they would rather get into if they didn't have those Vikings trying to cover airspace. So not going to be able to tap into that right away. Maru's pretty quick on the draw there, but he does lose 10 workers as a result of it. But here he comes right up the gut once again and really wants to get on top of this 4th base. But now does he have the Viking count to do it? He gets every single Viking covered by that anti-armor missile, and the Marines are going to stem forward, and I absolutely agree with that. They do pick off a few of those Vikings, and now that evens things out. Maru's going to be able to clean up a little bit of the Liberator count for INnoVation, and now suddenly INnoVation has to back up. He's not able to push any further forward, and it came at the cost of what? 10, 15 Marines for Maru? That's an easy trade.
It is, yeah, and well, here we go again. I mean, they just keep trying to fight for position here. It's like watching 2 arm wrestlers at the moment continuously just moving back and forth just in the middle somewhere, and neither of them gaining too much ground. Things can get a little bit stalematy in TvT sometimes, and that's kind of what we're seeing. So we're waiting for one of these players to really either make the full transition into an air army or just being able to break their opponents. Here we go, already SCVs being thrown out. Being able to clean up a siege tank, actually, perhaps.
I was going to say, we all know Maru's SCVs have been trained on the ground of Char, trying to give themselves an extra advantage here. Really nice concave by Maru with these Marines. But where's the tanks? The tanks are all the way in the back. They're not really going to get on top of much, so INnoVation can trade relatively efficiently here, and he's still able to hold on to that air superiority. So his Viking count is still rather healthy. Now the tanks are going to start rotating forward, and we're going to start seeing a position here where Maru's going to have to back up, and immediately those tanks starting to rotate backwards.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised with the Viking count, actually, for Maru. He's going more heavily into the Ravens, which is perfectly fine as well. But can get a bit dicey if you're up against this amount of Vikings and you're mainly relying on the Ravens right now. And I mean, that Raven ball is just in front of his base. He may want to consider trying to get some sort of a maneuver here. Marines still pretty good against Vikings as well. Of course, if he does manage the interference matrix those siege tanks from a different angle, which is what it seems like it will be. Okay, here we go. Interference matrix coming in on most of the siege tanks, and in jump those Marines immediately going forward, cleaning up all of these Vikings and the siege tanks. A very clean maneuver there from Maru. What happened to those Ravens? It looks like most of them did manage to escape as well.
Maru with a really nice surround, bringing the Ravens in on the backside to get to the tanks. That was a great play tactically. And now Maru's the one that sits up on the army count, and he should feel confident enough to try and push out here at some point. But both players have just got the map split basically right down the middle. Both players have access to one more base, but it's just continued TvT positioning that we know and love in this, and we're 19 minutes in, and again, we're at a point, no clear advantage right now. Both players playing very well.
Yeah, they definitely are. I think Maru with that fight maybe taking a again, I can't really say lead at all. I mean, everything just keeps going back and forth between these two, and I guess we are a little bit further onto the grounds of Maru, so if things goes bad for him, it's going to be a bit more dicey, right? It's easier for INnoVation then to immediately start pressuring a base, where if Maru suddenly wins this fight, although, you know what, he's getting closer to a base now as well. It's actually just running past the army of INnoVation, now stimming forward as INnoVation's unsieged a lot of anti-armor missiles here, and interference matrix is also going down. My dear lord, how does he target all those siege tanks with so much stuff in the air above it? That was fantastic.
Oh, that was so much damage. GG is called, and Maru with a game number 2. That was a great engagement. Wow. It was so cool to see because he had so many Ravens, and he I think he used just about everything. I think he had a couple auto turrets. Yep. He had some interference matrices. He used an anti-armor missile. He tossed everything at INnoVation, and good positioning by the Marines was able to get everything shut down. Like you said, how did he manage to get all of that damage done. Great control.
Absolutely. That was absolutely pretty much a flawless execution if I've ever seen one. With that amount of Ravens, that amount of spells to be casted, being able to just kind of get his mouse in between those Vikings and in between the medevacs to hit up all those siege tanks. Sickening. Honestly, that was brilliant stuff there from Maru, being able to force INnoVation in a sense to chase him down and then immediately kind of punish him for being unsieged right there, taking the initiative. You got to wonder what INnoVation could have done differently. Perhaps just go straight up for the base trade. That is something that, you know, a bit of a Hail Mary that we sometimes see in TvT, but ultimately, you know what? You got to be careful. You got to be careful when playing against Maru, because my dear Lord, he might just do something like that.
Well, we're getting into a game number 3 here. INnoVation on the verge of elimination here as we are loading into Death Aura. Folks, this could possibly be our final game of the day, and it could come at the success of this man spawning in the bottom right from Jin Air Green Wings, our Blue Terran. It is Maru.
In the top left side, we have a red Terran player fighting for the Kaisi Gamers. He is INnoVation.
I realized that I had like a really good alliteration there. INnoVation on the brink of elimination.
Oh. Yeah. It's a shame I missed it myself. If only. If only.
By the way,
still bring it up.
Chat, I keep waiting for someone to tell me when INnoVation blinks. Are you telling me that he hasn't blinked since game number 1? Well, I guess it's game number 2, but what? Come on, chat, you're letting me down here.
I don't know either.
We paid good money for these webcams.
His ears are kind of out there as well right now, right? And kind of pointy at the moment.
I won't believe chat, but Inno actually hasn't blinked yet. The god. He doesn't need he is advanced above blinking. Yeah, blinking's only a Protoss thing. Let's wrap up the stream. We got the jokes out of the way. Have a great day. Okay, I guess we'll play this one out, I guess.
It's like got really dry eyes right now. He's almost crying to a point where it's just like, oh god. I don't know. He may just be absolutely terrified as well, right? Just shocked and petrified in a sense. Maru once again showcasing he can play this game without his hands. He doesn't care.
Nah, he's already tapped into the system, Matrix style. He's sitting underground in like some bunker somewhere. And yeah, Neo's trying to save him, and we turn to find out that it's actually INnoVation. He's gonna make the comeback. Just mark my words. I think he's got it. It's ready.
I would like to see it. Honestly, INnoVation, a very, very strong Terran player, right? He's been around for so incredibly long. He's been able to showcase him being able to take tournaments, right? We have him on Alpha X very, very often. Very much willing to do all sorts of show match series and all of that good stuff. So it would be a lot of fun to have him around in this Alpha X tournament as well as we enter the TvT arena, the TvT gauntlets in a way. But I mean, Maru, he has to beat him 3 times in a row, right? And that's a tall order to make. That is a tough thing to do. He's gonna have to dig deep here, and I don't know, if you keep going into these macro games, right? If you keep going for the regular standard TvT 3 times in a row, are you really going to be able to eke out a victory against Maru 3 times?
Well, Maru's going to get weird with it if we all of a sudden get like 1 or 2 games into an INnoVation win. So I think it's definitely a tall order if he's going to get that accomplished. But right now, Maru's going to keep the pressure on here, keeping the units of INnoVation honest at the front of his natural. But look at where we are headed for both of our players. It appears to just be continued aggression out of Maru's grabbing that medevac, and I think INnoVation is just going to lay back once again. He knows Maru's going to bring the pressure. He's just going to try and be prepared for it.
Yeah, I like the Cyclone, right? That's a great thing to get in order to defend against any type of aggression. Early on, if you shoot down that medevac, suddenly all those units that Maru brought along the map suddenly will be stranded there and should be picked off ultimately. Hopefully without doing too much damage overall, but we'll have to wait and see. Reaper and Hellion here coming in will be able to get themselves something, perhaps anything. With 1 mule, I think they got, right?
Well, we'll have to see if Maru can get any more damage. There is a Cyclone posted up and ready to go. It's a matter of how quick that lock-on happens. He's going to be able to drop everything here into the mineral line, and that tank pops out at a perfect opportunity. The rest of the bio is also here as well, so a couple of workers going to go down. I think that might be more than INnoVation was planning for, but pretty decent all things considered, but it was a one-way trip.
Yeah, overall, it's not the end of the world. I mean, he did lose a bit more army supply overall, but did manage to secure a small SCV lead here because of it. Now, also, he's got that third base slightly a little bit ahead overall. And it always feels weird to talk about these small things in TvT in particular, because, like, just one small overstep of Marines into a siege tank line can change it all up so quickly, right? That is what makes this matchup a little bit weird sometimes. I suppose you have a little bit of a similar thing in ZVZ with, like, Banelings and PvP with the Disruptors and such, but it's still important to note, though, of course, because, as I mentioned, small things can slowly become the bigger things when they all clump up together.
This is true. This is true. One thing leads to another, and think about it like our avalanche. Just only a couple pieces of snow, and then all of a sudden you get a ball, and then suddenly it's a whole avalanche of snow. So that's what Maru is definitely trying to go for in this series, and he's been successful for the first 2 games, just slowly overwhelming his opponent and then pouncing at the moment of weakness. And it seems to be no different here in game number 3. Getting that stim pack upgrade. Actually, INnoVation's got a little bit better timing, and he's also got that +1, I guess the 1/1 +1 weapons and armor on the way as well. I don't even see that in the production tab for Maru.
Yeah, that is a good point to make, actually. He is seemingly kind of letting it go for now. He does have his engineering base, though, doesn't he? I would assume that he has.
I would be surprised if he didn't, but it's definitely not in the production tab right now. So what is he prioritizing? I mean, he's getting some SCVs. He threw down 3 reactors, and I don't know. This feels like oversight at this point.
Maybe.
Oh, there it finally goes. Okay, that's huge. That's a big difference here. I think INnoVation, if he strikes at the timing of his 1/1, I mean, he's going to have almost 30-45 seconds of a giant advantage against Maru.
Yeah, and if he stays on top of this as well, right? That's the armory, so it looks like he will be able to kind of stay on top of this. So it's going to be able to maintain this lead throughout the game. And Maru this is one of the few moments where that actually did occur, of course, and that could bring INnoVation in a nice spot here to actually take some trades heavily in his favor that perhaps otherwise would not be able to go into his favor.
Maru's going to see this push coming here. He should have the means of setting up, and this is a pretty difficult ramp to try and move up if you are INnoVation. And yeah, knowing that he's scouted, he is going to back off and try and rethink this. But unfortunately, he doesn't know what we know. He doesn't know that 1/1 isn't quite done yet for Maru. So INnoVation would have an opportunity to have a distinct advantage, but he's just going to play it safe. He's going to try and split off his army just a little bit, get some harassment done. More than anything, trying to divide up his opponent, who right now has a pretty decent siege point, as it says.
There's also only 1 Raven available here, actually. Oh, no, wait, that is 2. Okay, so the Viking count here for Maru is rather impressive. That is certainly to be said. So it looks like that is kind of where his gas was going for a while. just getting a higher lead in the air army, but oh dear lord, this could be rather tasty. INnoVation being able to get a drop into the main base as he is repositioning his army on the left side, maintaining Maru to be to kind of stuck between these two places. 14 SCVs go down with a lot of Marines as well.
Oh, and he might actually clean up all the Marines in the main. So now Maru's going to have to dedicate more army to deal with this. INnoVation's in a much better position here in game number 3, getting some good damage. And like you said, 15 workers going down. That is going to be a significant amount here for Maru as he's going to try and reclaim that worker count. But that comes at the cost of his production elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. And we're also seeing that 4th base already up for INnoVation here.
He's trying to spiral in this
one
game.
more time. Okay, this may be a little bit too over-aggressive. There's still siege tanks available for Maru. Quite a few on that high ground right there. The Viking count, of course, also quite heavily in favor for Maru. So we'll be able to reset the siege tank count. No, actually, the Vikings still go down there. Was not anticipating that. Those Marines, they definitely pack a punch against those fighter jets.
Well, and I love how far back INnoVation left the tanks siege. He knew he just has to shut down the 4th base, and that's exactly what he got. He traded out just well enough, and now those tanks are not going to be able to advance forward. But INnoVation with another big doom drop. Unfortunately, one of those medevacs getting picked off that had, I think, the most amount of units still in it. But one tank will be able to help hold the ramp here. And even though it will get cleaned up, it's more damage dealt. It's more delay on that 4th base as well. And Maru is kind of in a tough spot still.
Yeah, INnoVation just being as aggressive as he can and making it absolutely work. I mean, sometimes it works out in TvT, sometimes it doesn't. This time around, looks like INnoVation maintaining the lead here and making it bigger and bigger. Still holding off that 4th base continuously, as you mentioned, coming in once more with more Marines into the 3rd as well. Shutting down another siege tank, shutting down the medevacs, and making Maru's life absolutely miserable.
I love how long it has taken Maru to try and get forward here, and now, yeah, that 2-2 is just still not getting quite completed. It should be done here in about the next 15 seconds. But INnoVation is really flexing the upgrade advantage. It's definitely showing in his engagements here. Now, 11 more workers have gone down. The 4th base finally has been cleared here for Maru, but INnoVation's getting more economic damage done on the backside of this. Yeah, those medevacs get picked off, but you're pushing almost 20 worker kills. That's a great trade for INnoVation. Maru has got to be continuing to feel more and more frustrated as INnoVation is now getting out to his own 5th base.
Yeah, and once more, the 3rd under a lot of pressure. The siege tanks get a marvelous positioning here. We'll be able to start sieging away at the 3rd. And more drops coming in on these siege tanks. Completely unprotected, Rushy. That looks like, a lot of the stuff going down here. And that is, that may be a decisive blow right there. The multi-pronged attack, and I just don't see exactly how you're planning to mount a comeback here as Maru.
Well, it's going to be difficult when you're constantly having to invest more and more of your mineral count into replacing those SCVs, because look at his worker count. His worker count's already back up even with INnoVation. And I mean, that's coming from almost being 20 workers down. So that's less Marine production. That's less tank production. That's just less production in general. Although this was not a great engagement here for INnoVation. The tanks in good position for Maru, starting to get a little bit better spread here, and INnoVation is starting to toss away a little bit of his lead. I mean, this is actually quite unfortunate for INnoVation. He was in a great spot, and now Maru's digging himself back in.
Yeah, it's definitely happening. Yeah, more siege tanks are falling here. INnoVation getting a little bit too greedy with his pushes there, and gets punished for it. Just not being able to get those trades going into his favor anymore. We'll have that +3/+3 for a long time as an advantage, though. And as it already finished up, and Maru's +3/+3 only now starting up right here. He also has the income advantage here, of course, with the 5 base versus the 4 base, as Maru only now has secured that 4th base. I'm still liking INnoVation spots, but Maru, I mean, he just made it playable by being very stellar on the last previous 2 defenses.
Good shutdown on that base. Maru's just going to continue trying to push forward here. Now, INnoVation still has a army advantage, but he has to be careful that he doesn't start losing workers here, because that advantage is going to slip away from him very, very quickly. And it's going to be Maru doing a bit of a drop into the main base. Now, not quite nearly as doomy as INnoVation's 3 or 4 that he brought in, but still putting pressure on to our red Terran player. And I mean, this is really good distraction damage more than anything, trying to prevent INnoVation from moving out across the map once again. The army's getting choked up in the center. I feel like INnoVation is having a little bit of indecision, but it seems like now he's going to decide, yep, I'm just going to shove on forward. I'm maxed out. You're not touching my worker count just yet. He's going to back up once again. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, INnoVation trying to maintain that aggression, of course. One of the best ways, in a sense, to maintain control in a TvT is by being aggressive and forcing your opponent to play defensively. Starting up 4 starports here as well, ready to make the transition, it looks like, into the air army. A little bit ahead of him, though, is Maru, already opting to go more so for the air army. 6 Ravens right there. You can clearly see this being represented as well in the marine counts. INnoVation sticking a bit longer onto the ground composition. Also, of course, 4 extra siege tanks in his favor. But so far, not quite being able to find any momentum with the pushes for a while now.
And it's just continued aggression on both sides here. Now INnoVation trying to get in with his main army, but good anti-armor missile will push that back. And INnoVation just has a lot of indecision at this point. He does not want to overextend, but I think to Maru's credit, Maru's buying himself a lot of time to be able to secure these further and further out bases. So yes, INnoVation has jumped up, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bases, but he's not able to do a whole lot with it. He does have a pretty sizable bank, all things considered, though, so eventually he will be able to take some slightly inefficient engagements here. It's going to be a big stem forward onto these tanks. The tanks do get cleaned up, but now there's not a whole lot to deal with the remaining bio, and so many interference matrices going down. These tanks will get cleaned up. Another great anti-armor missile, and Maru using every single skill he's got in his back pocket.
Yeah, that was a very nice engagement right there. I really was scared for him for a moment. I thought, well, INnoVation has more siege tanks, more marines here. But again, the spellcaster Ravens here making some work happen for Maru. INnoVation still gaining more and more control of the bottom left side of the map, though, taking those bases, getting more command centers up and running. But ultimately, Maru suddenly has turned to the tables and will be able to put the pressure onto INnoVation, as INnoVation lost too much of his army supply while trying to get into places where he had no business of being.
I feel like right there, Maru just shoved on forward and got a huge sack on INnoVation's army count, and that's going to knock him back, and all of a sudden he's in a position where he's on 3rd down and he's got about 40 yards to go, and it's just too difficult for INnoVation to try and overcome. He's got to come up with something creative if he wants to keep advancing forward.
Yeah, and I mean, he did start up the 4 extra starports. I'm seeing a lot of Vikings now being created. He wants to try and make an army that is capable of handling those Ravens from Maru, or at least kind of compete with them in a similar on a similar field. Yeah, you're gonna lose this base as well. That goes down very quickly now that the +3/+3 is done. Maru, is he going to try to commit here further forward? Yes, he is. The anti-armor missile hits again, as well as the interference matrix. But the Ravens have to back off very quickly because those Vikings, or INnoVation, now high enough in supply that they will be able to force back the spellcasters from Maru.
Well, it's some pretty good back and forth between these two right now. A little bit of a stalemate here outside of INnoVation's, let's call it 6th base. And Maru's not going to want to overstay his welcome, but he's just been landing these anti-armor missiles like crazy. INnoVation just unable to escape the extra soft damage that Maru keeps placing onto his army. So it's going to come at the cost of some workers. I think on the top side of the map, we had some SCVs that fell. But Maru really wants this 6th base location, and he's going to keep on shoving forward. The tank's going to immediately get interference matrices out of the game, and that's going to allow all of this bio to keep pushing forward. Tank's going to reposition, and there's now not that many left on INnoVation's side of the map. He's only got 2, and there's so many Ravens. These Ravens continuing to offer a lot of coverage, and now the tanks are going to get cleaned up for Maru. This is starting to look really rough for INnoVation, but he is trying to hold on.
How is he doing this? Look at the numbers overall. There's like double the marine count for INnoVation. He still has, well, not as many siege tanks right now, I believe, but anyway, this is quite a impressive display of skill here from Maru, being able to maintain somewhat of a cool head from all that aggression from INnoVation. And INnoVation here does manage to clean this up, but just barely, and he did lose that base. He did lose more SCVs than he had bargained for. He has that top right side still slightly, reobtained that location, but ultimately Maru now ahead with 2 full bases, and that is a very difficult position for INnoVation all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, he holds on that space, Kozan, but at what cost? It cost him 23 SCVs. It cost him the base. He's slowly slipping on his economic advantage, and that's what he has had pretty much almost his entire game. He's always been up a couple of bases, at least since about the 10 to 15 minute mark. And now Maru is working his way forward. He's getting the damage done that he needs to, and he's denying INnoVation the opportunity to re-secure these outlying bases. So another orbital command is going to get picked off. INnoVation needs to find damage somewhere. He's going to try and siege up on the low ground here. Immediately, the worker pole gets out of harm's way. So Maru not going to lose out on all of those workers just yet. And again, the Raven count of Maru is what is doing the most amount of exchange here. Maru continuing to land those anti-armor missiles. He's continuing to shut down all of those tanks with interference matrix. It's just continued damage one way or the other with all of these Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that he's denying the mining here, right? That's fantastic. That's what he needs to do, but at the same time, I mean, Maru still has that other base, of course, working in his favor as well. He's still ahead on those bases. Again, moving in here. 20 army supply ahead right now. The Marines, both of them, both all orange here. It becomes a little bit difficult to see which one is blue and which one is red, but anyway, we're moving on forwards towards this planetary base. It will fall, it looks like, with the siege tanks wailing away at it together with the Marines. Another base goes down for INnoVation. I think we may be approaching the point of no return as INnoVation loses another base. He has re-established the left side, the 9 o'clock, but ultimately, it's just not a great situation here for INnoVation whatsoever, and it's getting worse and worse after he got himself in a brilliant spot for so long.
Yeah, this is unfortunately going to be one of the last engagements here for INnoVation. These tanks are going to siege up, take out all of this bio, and INnoVation is going to slip and fall out of our bracket. GG is called, and Maru with a very, very clean 3-0 victory over his opponent, showcasing he still has